I'm Tiffan Yeaman. I am a stillbirth mom, and I'm one of the 5 founders of the Count the Kicks program. My husband and I had been married for just under 8 years. We had a 2.5-year-old daughter. We were pregnant with our 2nd child. We didn't know if it was a boy or girl. It was going to be a surprise. Picture perfect pregnancy, had no problems. We were at the very end of our pregnancy. I had a scheduled C-section because I had had a prior C-section with our first daughter, 10 days away from our due date, and I went into labor. Called the doctor's office. They said, go down to the hospital. It was towards the end of the day, so they said, why don't you go down to the hospital because our clinic is closing. They monitored me at the hospital on the labor and delivery floor for about 6 or 7 hours. And they made comments when I was there that our baby wasn't moving very much. And so they were doing some things, I call it a zapper. They would put it on my belly and just try to get her moving a little bit. They had me drink orange juice. They did a test called a biophysical profile, which is in non-medical terms, a very high-level ultrasound. And they have 8 criteria that they measure the baby on, and we came out of that test and they said, your baby scored an 8 out of an 8. The baby's perfectly healthy. And so we were released from the hospital. I remember walking through the dark parking lot of the hospital and saying to my husband, I hope we're doing the right thing. I hope going home is the right thing. And he said to me, Tiffan, they deliver babies every day. They know what they're doing. Came home, went to bed, got up the next morning, and the baby felt very different. She felt very heavy. I had a regularly scheduled doctor's appointment that day. I called the doctor's office later that morning and said, hey, do you still want me to come in to my appointment? Because they did about every test they could possibly do last night, and they said the baby's okay. And they said, yeah, go ahead and come in. We're gonna do a group B strep test, which is a normal test that they do at that point in the pregnancy. So I said to my husband, you don't need to come to this doctor's appointment. You saw everything last night. And I took my 2.5-year-old daughter to the doctor's appointment thinking we're just gonna run in, do this test and run out. I got in there and they did the Doppler to get the heartbeat, and I didn't realize it, but the doctor started getting this panicked look on his face. And he said, Tiffan, we're gonna run you down to the ultrasound room. And I said, oh no, we did a lot of ultrasounds last night and everything's good. And he said, no, we're gonna run you down to the ultrasound room. And then he scooped me up in his arms before I knew what was happening, and he carried me into the ultrasound room. And it was at that point that I said, what's going on? And he said, we're gonna do an ultrasound real quick. I just need to see something. And they had the ultrasound machine on for, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. And he was looking down and he looked up and there were tears coming down his eyes. And he said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was the only one in the room. The nurse was crying and he was crying. And I looked and my daughter was gone. And I said, where's my daughter? And they said, we've called someone to come pick her up, and we've called Joe and he's on his way. And then I just kind of got mad. I said, what's going on? And he said, Tiffan, I'm so sorry. We've lost your baby. And I don't remember a lot after that. I think I must have gone into the fetal position on the ultrasound table. And the next thing I remember was another doctor coming in, and they said, we're very sorry. We have to turn the ultrasound machine on again. We need another doctor to confirm this. And so I remember that conversation. And I remember, there's just different things you remember. I remember the nurse hugging me and squeezing my arm as tight as she, for some reason I can still feel her hand squeezing my arm. And then I'm sure I said, why, a bunch of different times. And I argued with them, and I said, no, she was okay. She was okay last night. They said the baby was fine last night. And the doctor just said, Tiffan, we have absolutely no idea what happened. And they started asking me questions about the night before. And they said, what did they say to you last night? And I said, they kept making comments that the baby wasn't moving very much. And at one point, the doctor put his fist on the table and he said, damn it, just like that. And so that I can remember the squeeze on the arm. I can remember him saying, damn it, when they said she's not moving very much. But I didn't put everything, I was in this state of shock and I didn't put everything together. And then we got home and they left us with instructions to come back to the doctor's office and have a meeting with the doctors. This was on a Friday. So they left us with instructions to have a meeting with the doctor at 8:30 Monday morning. And they said, we'll come up with a plan. And they said, normally in your situation, we would induce someone and just get this over with. And they said, you are not a candidate for induction because you had a prior C-section. And it puts you at too high risk for a uterine rupture because the contractions come on too strong. And they said, we need to come up with a plan. So we came home and I just remember laying on the couch, and then my husband said, I'm gonna start making phone calls. And he called my parents and his parents and just start calling our family and letting them know that we don't know what happened. We just know we lost the baby. I remember my sister-in-law coming over and just rubbing my back. And then a couple hours later, I went into labor again. And we called the doctor and they said, it's because you're in shock and you're dehydrated. And they said, drink water, but don't eat any food, just in case we deliver the baby tonight. And they said, and you'll get calmed down. And then a few hours later, I said, I'm really in labor, like we gotta go to the hospital. And so we went to the hospital and I labored through we got to the hospital probably about midnight. I labored through the night and I had this nurse who I think was probably an angel, and she came in at 5 o'clock in the morning and said, you've been doing this now for 7 hours. And she said, I don't think you're probably gonna deliver this baby vaginally. And she said, it's your right. If you wanna have a C-section, you can have one. You just need to tell the doctor. I think that's all my husband and I needed to hear. And we just said, let's just get it done. And then they started prepping me for surgery. And then the next thing I know, the chaplain from the hospital came in and she asked if we wanted the baby baptized. And they're asking me these questions and they're asking me what funeral home we want. And I just remember thinking, I have no idea. I can't tell, I've lived in Des Moines for how many years and I can't even tell you one name of a funeral home. You just can't think of that. And in the back of my head, I thought, there's medical miracles. And I said to my husband as they wheeled me from my hospital room to the surgery room, I said to my husband, pray really hard because maybe it's gonna be all okay. And I just thought, I'm just gonna pray really, really hard. And maybe it's all gonna be okay, and they're wrong. And I'd been through a C-section before, so I kind of knew, what they do. And the next thing that I remember was opening my eyes and looking to the side, and my husband's walking toward me, carrying a bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. And I started to cry, and I said, it's okay. I said, because I thought he's holding her, so that means it's okay. And I remember saying, it's okay, it's okay. And his head was down and he looked up and his eyes were swollen and he was crying and he said, it's not okay. But he said, she's beautiful. And he held her down and she just looked like she was sleeping. She looked perfectly normal. And I said, what happened? I thought she wasn't gonna look like a normal baby. She looked perfectly normal, except her eyes were shut. And the doctor said, we have our answer. And he said there was a knot in her umbilical cord. And we didn't know. And he said, we don't need to do an autopsy because we know. And I remember leaving the hospital and just leaving without having a baby and leaving without a baby. We left with a box. They brought us this nice box and put her blanket and put her things in it that they had given us, and it was just this surreal thing.
Do you remember what you said to her before you had to leave her?
Just, I love you. I thought I had done something, and I just said, I'm so sorry. But we had her with us for probably about 5 hours. I remember Joe and the nurse saying, we probably need to take her now. Her skin was starting to change. And my husband said, let's remember her looking perfect. And their face starts to bruise. I suppose because and their lips start to get real dark red. And he said, she's starting to change. And he said, let's remember her being perfect. And so he said, let's start to say goodbye. And that was, I remember them walking in my room and I just wailing. I mean, you hear that? Just wailing, crying. This is February 8th, 2004. Dear Madeline, I can't believe you'd be a little over 8 months old now. You'd be sitting up, maybe starting to crawl and pestering your big sister by now. I miss you so much. It hurts so bad. I feel like my heart will be broken forever. I try so hard to be strong, and I know you'd want me to. But inside, I'm so sad, and I just want to relive my pregnancy with you all over so that I could have a chance to bring you home. On Christmas Eve, we got the special music box for your ashes. It was comforting to finally have you home with us. My therapist recommended that I write you a letter to say goodbye. I just can't do it. I'll write letters to you for the rest of my life, but I'll never say goodbye. I haven't cried in a long time, so why am I crying now? Maybe because yesterday I was reminded of how much you weighed, 5 pounds, 7 ounces. I love you so much, Madeline, and I'm so lucky to have you watching over us. Hugs and kisses, Mommy. P.S. Isabella and I made Valentine's this weekend, and we're going to send one up to you attached to a red balloon, so be watching for it. I had no idea. I guess I remember writing it, but I had no idea that was in there. Stillbirth is defined differently in every state, but stillbirth in most states is when a baby loses its heartbeat or dies in utero before delivery, and the baby is delivered without taking a breath. According to the CDC, a Black woman is more than twice as likely to lose a baby to stillbirth as her white neighbor or colleague or friend. There is a maternal health issue in the United States as well as beyond, but what has been eye-opening to us is that not a lot has changed when it comes to having a baby. And you would think that with all of the technology that we have 4D ultrasound. I saw my daughter's eyelashes in an ultrasound. And so to have a baby that dies 10 days before its due date because the cord is in a knot, to me is unacceptable. So the idea between Count the Kicks is that if you're monitoring your baby's movement every day during that 3rd trimester, you're getting to know how your baby moves. And you can use our app to track those baby's movements. And the movements can be anything from a kick to a jab to a roll, whatever. It's called Count the Kicks, but it's whatever kind of movement it is. You tap a little footprint on the app every time you feel one of those movements. It captures that, and you tap the footprints until you get 10 movements, and then it captures it. And if you notice a change in that movement pattern, that's a reason to go to your doctor and say, something's changing. It may be completely fine, but the baby's movement and any movement changes is the best indicator of something might not be right inside. And it's really empowering for the mom to be able to say, hey, something's moving, because the doctor isn't with you. They're not checking that every day. There's no way for them to tell that. As far as how many babies we've saved, I don't have an exact number. On our website, we have 60 baby saved stories. We do know that our app is directly linked to saving 7 babies. We know that it was a direct link to the app. And I'm sure there's lots more out there that haven't taken the time to email us and say, thank you, because of your app or because of your program, our baby is here. My hope for Count the Kicks is that everyone knows when they're pregnant during their 3rd trimester, you count the kicks. And that's just part of your pregnancy. And if we have an entire country, entire world of women that know to do that, we're not gonna have 24,000 babies a year that are gonna die. That number is gonna drop dramatically.
How do you feel your daughter feels about what you're doing now? And what do you think she would say to you, or what would you want to say to her?
Oh gosh. I would say, Madeline, look what you've done.